Ooh, that's a big package.
Maybe I won't be here if you want to take a seat. Yeah, that'd be great. It's front and back. Save a little paper. You hear anything on heaters?
Yes, I got some news on that for you, so. Yeah, only something, right?
Yeah, I'll have to duck out early, so we don't get to that before I duck out, if you could just
Text it to me, I guess.
email me.
Is this still funny?
It is 3 o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. First item up is the approval of the minutes from September 25th. Any questions about the minutes? Additions or corrections?
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Mr. Grotzinger's made a motion to approve the minutes. I'll second that motion. Any other discussion?
I'll roll call vote.
Mr. Freeman would like a roll call vote. Any other discussion? Ms. Thompson?
John Kenyon,
Yes.
Anton Ziesler,
I'll abstain.
Mayor Gotzinger,
Yes.
Jerry Biller,
Yes.
Ron Freeman.
No.
Motion passes.
Okay, item number 3, public comment. Any public comment today? Any public comment? Any public comment? Next up, introduction of guests. We invited BJ today. You say your last name, Rao?
Rockman.
Rockman, okay, that's easy to pronounce.
Yep.
So he's I suppose some of the county folks have met him. I just met him a minute ago. So I just wanted to bring him here and see what kind of, he's the county's, can you just describe your role with the county here?
Absolutely. So I'm helping with the county. I work for CETA. CETA is Community and Economic Development Associates. The county approached CETA to provide what we call fractional resourcing for economic development support. So basically CETA is well developed in Minnesota, becoming more developed in Wisconsin. Smaller communities approach CETA and ask for support in providing economic development support. In Russ County's case, they asked CETA for a 2-day-a-week contract. So CETA basically has hired me to provide economic development support for the county for 2 days a week through CETA. So for the most part, I've been coming up. I live in Eau Claire. I've got a cabin in Russ County on the river just up from Holcomb. So I've been working that, basically coming into Ladysmith, working out of the visitor center from the cabin. Familiar with the area, have a vested interest in the area. For from a very general perspective, the support I'm providing, what I've been doing since I started in July, getting out and trying to meet with the business owners, leaders throughout the community, trying to figure out who's who, letting them know that there's somebody in this position to provide economic support if they need something. And some of the things that I've been busy with so far, applied for a grant through WDC for a small business development grant for the county. I know Al manages one for the city that's very similar that he got money for last year. And I believe the program, Al's program is 2025 and 2026 for the most part.
Yeah, ends January 1 of 27.
So the intent for the grant that I wrote an application for would be starting in 2026 and go through 2027 for money if we were to be awarded. I still haven't heard whether we're gonna be awarded or not. I expect to hear that within the next month or so. Worked with Al a little bit. My proposal would be for that grant, if we were to be awarded money, would primarily look to business owners outside of Ladysmith, primarily. I approached Al and we talked a little bit about it. I ran the idea by him and he actually encouraged that. He said, if you were to get rewarded or awarded money and get applicants from within Ladysmith, I encourage you to just point them towards his program. And if he's got money left in his program, we'd see if they were eligible, maybe get money from that program. If he's out of money or we wanted to redirect them to the Russ County grant, then we would do so that way. So I think it should show WDC that the collaboration's there between the city and the county, which would be good. Keep my fingers crossed so we get money. I know there's a lot of applicants, so. Some of the other things that I've been concentrating on, and actually one of my priorities now is to help make sure that the data for industrial sites, buildings is in place, not just for the city. I know you're gonna talk about it today, but for the county, to make sure that if there's availability within those sites, those buildings, that we can market those appropriately. And part of that is cleaning up some of the data in the Russ County Economic Development website. It's old, needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Any of the other priorities? Recent Forestry Revitalization Act that was announced a couple weeks ago, and we're building the SAF plant in Hayward. Trying to look and see if we've got some opportunities to take advantage of that. I think in general, if that gets built, we'll see a lot of pluses from that, and the fact that the forestry industry for Wisconsin is going to take off, which we need it to. There's a lot of advantage for Russ County if that was to be the case. And expanding on that a little bit is looking at the Tony Rail site to see if there's an opportunity there to better market that for something that would be related to that SAF plant, rather than, right now it's just leased to Excel for their storing matting there. Talk to people, and the thought is if we were to take advantage of the Hayward plant, if it were to be built, if we send product up there, it's probably gonna be trucked rather than rail. So I don't know that the Tony Rail site's gonna, kind of dovetail into that. But certainly something to look at. I'll just stop there and see if anybody's got any questions. Basically, I work for the county, but as I've told the supervisors, I work for them. I can change my priorities however they see fit, especially if then in their areas they see opportunities or they have questions and challenges that they want me to look into. Please bring them up to me. At 2 days a week, there's a lot to get done in 2 days a week, and 2 days is probably not enough time to do that, but doing my darndest.
I live along the railroad tracks going towards Tony.
Yes, sir.
And I saw the other day, they were doing something with welding equipment on the rails,
Okay.
which tells me that they're planning on utilizing it in the near future for what, I don't know, but right now they're storing some of their boxcars out there. But, normally they wouldn't spend money to do something on the rails.
True.
If there wasn't gonna be some activity down the road.
Yeah, CN was actually in here, I wanna say a month or two ago, and presented, I think Al, you were in that meeting, they presented to us. Basically, the presentation that they showed was their network throughout the US and Canada and Mexico. They did talk about the two spurs that are in Ladysmith and the, siding there at Tony. What they talked about for the spurs in Ladysmith is that they run the risk of retiring those permanently if we don't find a use for them. Cause there's maintenance to be done, and you're right, most of what's being done right now between here and Tony are just, that rail siding in Tony is storage of sand cars. They did say that there's a lot of work to be done on that stretch. They didn't give any indication at that time that they were gonna be doing any work, so I'm a little surprised to hear that, but, if they are, that's actually good news.
The other question I have is, these grants, are they strictly for industrial development or are they also for businesses?
Mostly small business is what I'm, kinda
I'm
targeting.
aware of a couple of individuals who are looking at doing a small business, but they would probably need some financial help to get it going.
Yeah, if they're in Ladysmith, either have them contact me or contact Al, I'm more than happy to help. Travis, and I don't recall Travis's last name, he owns the Ace Hardware here in town. He's looking to do maybe some facade improvements, so he's looking for some financial support. Had a young couple that's willing, or interested in opening a trucking business, they're looking for some money. So I've had several people contact me to look for financing options, whether they be grants, whether they be revolving loan funds, any support that I can get them, so, yeah, I can,
Phone number?
absolutely, I'll leave you my card.
Okay,
Yep.
appreciate it, thank you.
Any other questions? Suggestions?
I just wanted to invite you today so you could, we're responsible for quite a few industrial rental properties in the community here, and so I just wanted to get you an introduction to, what we have and what we're doing here. Historically, going back to when I started here in 2019, we had, the county had a full-time economic development, and I don't even know if he was still supposed to be doing that full-time, Andy,
Alvarado?
and so that was kind of the basis of this organization. It was all industrial properties, we had a few other things mixed in there with it, and, it sounds like, next year, the county is will probably have a full-time position again. So that was always kind of the lead at this meeting here, because we're really focused on industrial properties, and it's very closely related to economic development. So, these properties are pretty important to that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
If you have questions or anything, or any input during the rest of the meeting, you're absolutely welcome to
Okay.
speak up.
Thank you.
I feel like you're kind of an expert in the area, we're just normal people here trying to do our best to.
And I'll tell you, I'm not an expert in the area. I actually retired from Xcel Energy, end of '23. I was their director of operations, so the distribution linemen in the field and the designers, that was part of my organization. But some of the things that I did, I'm very familiar with the person that runs CETA. He contacted me, knew that I was looking for a little bit more to do with my spare time, and just so worked out that here I am. Anybody else want a card, just let me know. Actually, I want to make sure I gave you the right one.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the financials, expenses and revenues. Ms. Heath, anything you want to highlight on these?
No, best, I still haven't gotten best for, September, that was the only thing I wanted to highlight on the revenues. And then I have mailed a snail mail letter to West Covelands, and I still haven't heard anything. I don't know if anyone,
He's out of there, isn't he? But
yeah,
For almost 3 months.
yeah, and so we're due 3 months of back rent.
Which he said he'd take care of, but
Okay, yeah, it hasn't come through. I know he has to work with the title company or something, or it's in trust or escrow or something.
yeah, cause his insurance, I think, was paying.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone had like a connection, we could give a phone call or something, or I can send him a letter.
I can give you a phone number if
Okay.
you'd like to make a phone call.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Thank you.
any questions about the expenses or revenues? Last month we had, couple of questions. I know I sent you at least one, but I think we kind of stumbled through the rest while you were absent. There was one about utilities at a Forest 1 or Forest 2. There were some late charges, was that right? It looked like we were paying several months ago, because it's currently occupied by Indec, and it looked like we were paying utilities through that time as well.
That could possibly, I enter these in the month that they book.
Okay.
So then, you know, we might not have entered them in our clerk's office until that month. Even though the cost was incurred, you know, before Indec moved in, it might have just been a lag in like billing and then entering in on our side. But I did double check with the clerk's office, and both of these addresses are off of our utilities now and
Okay, great.
transferred, so.
And the city's all caught up with you as far as you're aware?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, we're good with the city reimbursement, yeah.
On the vacant time. Any other questions about the expenses or revenues? No action required on those. The profit and loss analysis behind those. Everything looks pretty healthy there to me. Anything on that to highlight? Any questions on the profit and loss? We're moving along to the budget reports. Again, all of them have a box check that say no concerns. It says check if no concerns, and the box is checked on every one of these, I think. Any questions about those?
Who puts out these reports? Who does the tabulating?
Yeah, so on the county side, all of our departments have to do these monthly.
Okay. The city,
They have their own,
city doesn't get
I'm
involved.
sure.
And right now, and it's probably been that way at least back to '08. Yeah, county takes in everything, pays everything, so all their stuff is internal, on the county side.
Okay.
I think, yeah, it was just maybe back, when Kitsy was still here at the end of her term, Jamie took over. These numbers really started getting supplied with any regularity. I think
We
it's
went years
senior.
without any numbers at all, really.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but it goes back to 2008. And I should make copies of this, but the city agreed in 2008 to have the county take all of the revenue from these properties. And there was some loans, it was to pay back some loans that were taken to construct the warehouse at 1402 Jez Road, the Tony Rail Yard, some work at Gates Avenue, and some remodeling at 501 Dowdy. So that's why the county started collecting all of the revenue, and then all the expenses come from that same fund. And I asked Ms. Heath if she could find a county version of that resolution, and I don't know if there ever was anything at that time. It was just kind of an agreement that we'll give you all of the revenue, and it was my understanding, and I don't have any facts to back this up, that it was supposed to be 20 years worth of, the loan was supposed to be 20 years, and so the theory was that it'd be 2028 now, that $3 million that was borrowed for that would be paid off, and then we could, decide what to do with the revenues and expenses for it at that time. But I don't have any evidence of that. That was just my understanding, so. But I do have that resolution from 2008, that from the city side authorizing the county to collect all of the revenue. So, yes, Ms. Heath, does all the reporting for these properties.
So basically, when I look at your monthly summary, for June, there's some far more expense than revenues, and that is because of Forest 1. There's mostly expenses and no revenue. Is that correct?
So doing a bunch of cost allocations at the books, so that's all the insurance, and there's like an IT fee that comes out of it, there's a few things, and so all of that just happens in June.
In June, gotcha.
So you can see the revenues are pretty consistent, and then
Yeah, yeah.
like you see, significantly more expenses than. Okay, any questions about the budget reports?
Oh, Mr. Chair, I did have an update on the 2026 budgets, but I'm not sure if you wanted me to wait till further in the agenda for like 6.
Yeah, that'd be a good time to go over that. Okay, if there's no other questions about the budget reports, I'll seek a motion to approve the budget reports as presented.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Biller, seconded by Mr. Freeman. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, do we wanna take any action? As Heath mentioned, Mr. West is behind. We wanna direct any action beyond the letter that she sent. And then you're a couple months behind on Best too. That's a fairly small. Not that a small amount of rent isn't worth harassing. You know. Any concerns from anybody about that? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to number 6, facilities management. Mr. Yu, or anything significant to report?
Just did some updates. You had reached out in an email about getting that old conveyor out from the gates area. Got that taken out. And then while we were there, did some cleanup on the building itself, kinda gave it a little facelift. Touched up the front there, getting things looking good. And then in the Fritz building, ordered a rebuild kit for a pump when we were going through. Checking our boilers before fire up, we noticed, one had gone out, looks like must have lost a seal over the summertime, so we have, a kit ordered for that. And then I did have something that just came to my attention the other day, as far as significant tasks. I know, I think everyone's familiar in the past, we've had mold issues with the rental area of Dahlstrom Trucking in the Fritz Avenue plant. So we went in, located a condensate pump that had gone out and on the mezzanine above their offices. Pump went out, it overflowed, and we got some moisture into the floor, which I think was one of the reasons we had some mold start in there. So we were able to find that, replace the pump, and then we pulled the insulation from the ceiling in that area too, ran fans, dried everything out to the best of our ability. So this, I think that may have been where that mold had started from, that we've been fighting since, I guess before I had started with the county. We'd scrubbed it down, cleaned it, and unfortunately, it's still a problem. Received an email, just the other day, I was out of town, but they want something done about it. They're not happy that that issue keeps coming up, and, which is understandable. So I was hoping to bring it to the board about, getting some specialists in there, somebody who has a little more knowledge about that issue than I do, to try and resolve that issue once and for all.
The service master or?
Serve Pro and Service Master are two in the area. So,
One of them did 501 W, right?
yes, Service Master did.
So my concern there is that, one of the things we're gonna talk about for capital improvements is a ventilation system for that building. I don't know if, we can clean up in there, but again, not the expert on that, whole area ventilation system would help solve some of those problems. So I guess if they need cleanup, we could, to make it functional now, we could solicit quotes for that, for what they need. But personally, I'd like to avoid doing anything major there until we solve the real problem, which I think is ventilation there. So that was one of the things on the list for next year.
that a closed space at a high humidity, by any chance?
I think a lot of the issue is it's a heated and cooled office, and the rest of the building is not cooled throughout the summertime. So I think you're running into, you know, a 68-degree office and a 80-degree warehouse. It just creates moisture in between. I think could be a good amount of what's causing that issue.
Yeah, mold, black mold doesn't grow unless you have a high humidity content and
We
condensation.
haven't run into any black mold, nothing like that. It's generally the
Just
wood.
regular mold, any kind of mold?
Yeah.
Still, it's the same issue, it's basically, you need to do the ventilation.
And we have been running dehumidifiers in there. The office folks at Dahlstrom have been changing them for us, and they're emptying them 3 to 4 times a day. So they're doing their best to do their job. We're running 3 units in that office space, and we're still pulling a lot of humidity out of the air, so.
That office space isn't even maybe half of this room, 3/4.
Between the 3 rooms that are heated and cooled, I'd say about 1,000 square feet probably.
Not a huge space.
Not huge, no, not by any means.
So do you think we need to do something temporary, or will the dehumidifier, there's less humidity during the winter than there is during the summer, so make it a little better on its own, but.
That would be, just because we don't have access to some of the really good chemicals that can fight that mold. You have to be in the professional space to get those. I would think if we got a good cleanup in there and get it a little deeper than we can do as a maintenance department would be good. And then this cooler air through the winter time should help negate that mold growth till we can find a more permanent solution.
Can you get a proposal from some local, Serpro and Service Master, were those the 2?
Yep.
I don't know if anybody else does it, but you get proposals for remediation, and then, I don't know what a ballpark for cost on that stuff is, but.
Yeah, it's tough to ballpark. I believe there was some significant tear out at 501 Gowdy that, from leaking, so they had to do actual 2-foot and 4-foot flood cuts due to drywall soaking water up, which I don't see being the case here. And I believe the Dowdy project was about $32 or $3,500 that came in at, so I would expect to see it below 3,000, but.
I was gonna say when pipes broke at the old school before that got converted, those ran for about a day before anyone noticed, so that one was like 37,000, but I like 32 or 3,700 better, but yeah.
I think if you can get some proposals for that, we can take action on it.
Can you give that blower mold?
Sure, if you guys wanna jump.
Mind if I gotta get running soon, but there was follow up on the blower motors for the 501 part of the forest industry.
Okay, yep, we can skip down there, the letter D. 501 Gowdy had some blower motor, the change order, or the price changed on the material?
Yeah, so when Ladysmith Heating and Cooling went to order the motors the first time, they were on back order. By the time they came into stock, we had some tariffs hit that increased the price on those. So the original bill that a budget amendment had been done for was $3,376.28. Now the motors are in stock, we can get them at $3,976.28.
So 600 different.
Exactly $600 more.
So his price of labor stayed the same within the quote, that's just price of motors.
What's that do to the budget?
That was
We had a budget amendment for that dollar amount.
correct.
I was gonna say for $600, is that something we could conditionally approve here? And just look at taking it out of the city mining fund so you don't have to go through the big county process. Obviously, I can't guarantee that the council would approve that 600, but just in the interest of getting it done since we're into heating season. Or maybe the county process isn't that burdensome to do a budget amendment, but I think for $600, if we can find the quickest way to.
Yes.
I agree.
No, sorry.
No.
By the one.
Yeah, I guess you guys have numbers over by you.
Hang on, a budget amendment, sorry to interrupt, a budget amendment might not be necessary, I need to do some math really quick.
Well, I gotta run, but if someone can pass to me what gets decided on that, so that if we need a change to the council agenda for Monday, we can get that rolling. Thank you, Mr. Ewer, for that update.
Mr. Manager, you guys have like a little extra fund for emergencies in your,
We have a maintenance, a budget item, a line item for maintenance, and we're over that, that's why
oh,
there's
you're
a,
already over.
that's why there's a budget amendment.
So according to our procedures, it would not need an amendment because it's under the 10%. But I do think it would be, since you know you're gonna overspend the line, you know, just letting the finance committee know that you're going to be overspending the line, even though an amendment isn't required.
And we're not over on that property budget, I think we'll still be, under overall if we go back. The total expenditures budgeted there was 48,000 and, well, I guess we're over already on projected expenditures now.
Yes, so the mining fund makes up that shortfall.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve the $300 change order pending county finance department notification. 600, sorry.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Biller, second by Mr. Gratzinger. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the others, do you wanna go backwards a little bit here? The next specific item would be the enterprise center doors. We approved those last month, but again, we're short on the budgeted funds on that.
Yeah, so what we were able to get done with what money was left, was the overhead door for, would be in the barefoot painter section. Flambeau door, we got that one approved, they were able to do that last week, those were installed. So I did hold off on the order from Rice Lake. Glass and door, those doors would, those hollow metal doors do need to be replaced, but we could make it till next year. It's not like they need to be replaced now if we wanted to wait, for that budget to refresh. Unless the board would like to get those doors done. I will add a note to that these two that we ordered should be done, and then there's also 2 more doors on that building that next year I would look at replacing as well.
What was the cost per door on that?
It was right around, see, for 2 of them, $1,524. So,
And that was budgeted for?
that was in the maintenance line, the money. We've run out now, so it would be there next year, depending on what.
So basically, the $600 that we're short on the blowers, or whatever, would that come out of this?
We can mix and match properties. That'd be a budget amendment too, to go from one property to
Oh,
another.
so that's a different property?
Right.
Okay.
So I think the action we took last month was to approve those doors, so I think, unless we wanna make a change, you're just waiting for the budget to refresh.
Essentially, yep.
Any other questions or discussion about that?
Well, maybe I'm not familiar with your accounting procedures here. Why do you have each building separately, in a sense? Wouldn't that be all, since you're running the all buildings, your committee, you're running all the buildings?
Audit purpose. Audit purpose. So we can show which building is incurring which expense.
I don't think it's personally, I don't think it's a good business practice to mix them together either. I feel like that would, we wanna make sure that we're not losing large amounts of money on it, and that's why the audit goes through that. to make
No,
sure.
I know, I realize that, but what I'm saying is, as far as, your finances, all of these buildings, the expenses ultimately comes into one lump.
They do, all the revenue that goes to the mining fund and then the expenses come out of.
Yeah, and so therefore you can easily, if you do it that way, you can easily shift it from one to the other,
I don't know if that'd be described as easy.
Okay. I'll go along with you.
It could be, that'd be another budget amendment though, and I think the goal is to limit the amount of amendments. Okay, so working our way back up on number 6, we're on to number B, letter B, sorry. Proposals for capital improvement projects to be completed in fiscal year 26. When we went through our budget exercise a few months ago, we had several significant projects there that we talked about. Ms. Heath?
Yeah, so I tried sharing my screen and I can't figure it out, so I apologize, but I'll read it to you. So, this committee had recommended, capital improvement projects at the Enterprise Center, which would be the boiler and the ventilation. The Fritz, which was siding, sprinkler system and ventilation, and ADF, which was HVAC needs. Okay, so that is what this committee forwarded to the County Finance Committee. The County Finance Committee made some changes. Now, the budget isn't final, there's still a budget hearing on November 12th, but I just want to make you aware. On the enterprise budget, the request from this committee was $100,000 in the repair line, and the finance committee is proposing to the county board $15,000. In the Fritz building, this committee requested $150,000 in the maintenance line, and the finance committee is proposing $30,000. And then, okay, so for ADF, this committee proposed $90,000 in the improvements line, which is it's like maintenance, repairs, improvements, they just don't use the same terms. And finance is proposing $0. I wanted to make you aware of that before you got into this agenda item.
Gets back to my point, why even bother when you still gotta go through the finance committee, which looks at the big picture?
I guess I'm looking for an explanation from the finance committee on the reductions there, because we've got some pretty serious needs there.
Yes, but they have serious needs in the sense that they're at $1.5 million under budget.
Well, this all comes from the mining fund, which you can only use for economic development, so is that money budgeted elsewhere then?
Okay, so if I recall the conversation correctly, what the finance committee wanted to see was a little bit more of like a plan, like something in writing, instead of just like randomly coming at them with requests for capital improvements. They wanted to see more of like a longer range plan. Ron, were you at that meeting too?
I was at the meeting, I wasn't
Okay.
on the committee.
At that time, okay. So that's what I took away from the meeting, and then to answer your question, yes, I do believe that they were concerned about the overall pull on the mining fund, and that's due in part to the CETA contract and then budgeting for the full-time position, because they'd like to run those concurrently, so that was quite a large pull. on the economic development budget, which the tourism committee oversees. But to Tony's point, they kind of looked at the whole picture.
Too many committees. We've been fighting that for years. 30 years ago, I fought that. Too many committees.
So what kind of plan, like we talked about, you know, we had several items that we wanted discussed. What more depth does the finance committee want on that?
I don't think they outlined that. I would be happy to share the county's, like, CIP. We look at 5 years out, and then we describe a little more in depth kind of what the project is, what the funding source is it all levy, is it all special revenue, which, this would be the mining fund is a special, fund. Would you bond for it? Grant funding, and we had the departments kind of break down how their projects that they were proposing would be funded as well. So I'm not sure if they're looking for something to mirror that, or,
Basically the gist of what I got.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you propose? I mean, how did you propose this thing? Was it like a 5-year plan?
No,
1-year plan, or just this is what we need for the next year, or what?
We identified several significant needs, you know, that are, yeah, significant, I guess. You know, we cover as much as we can, you know, replace a door here and there kind of thing, but the HVAC units on the top of ADF, we did one 3 years ago now, 2 years, and it was 70,000 or so, and the other one, they were all the same age, and so the one quit totally, so we were expecting to do.
So you didn't propose to them that, based on the buildings, we have these aging units, each is gonna be 70, 80,000 or whatever. This is how we plan in the next 5-10 years, eliminating these and updating them. Maybe that's what they're looking at.
No, we didn't have any kind of plan, we just had a list of things.
I was questioning a couple, Enterprise, for instance, and I presented to them the same way I presented it here, that it's working, it works, but it's 30 years old. It's at the end of its lifespan, so we need to be thinking about where we're going from there. Basically what I added to the conversation, so.
So we were looking at 150,000 for Fritz. That was, we had a ballpark a few years ago for the ventilation system there. And I think even that would be more than the 30,000 that's left there. I think last time we looked, it was 50,000 or so is what.
What type of system was that?
Mr. Christensen had, we had plans drawn up for it, and he has them, but he's not here today. So it was designed for industrial use. It's a pretty heavy industrial area back there, but, I don't know the details of it. It was done by an engineering firm. Some of these we'll run into, like the boiler system at Enterprise Center. If we don't budget, or like the boiler there is currently working, right, but it's 30 years old. And then do we wait for it to quit and then look for a budget amendment?
It's typically how we do things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what they're looking at is, you know, if you know all these issues, what is your long-term plan to remedy these issues? You know, you have to have a plan, you know. Maybe a list of all of the boilers, all of the HVAC systems, all of these, you know. these are 30 years old, these are 40 years old, these are 50 years old, we're gonna tackle, you know, this one. 5 years from now, we're gonna tackle this one, you know, and so on and so forth. A long-term plan, so that they know, as far as your mining impact funds, those are limited. But you still get some monies coming in from the mining? No.
No, it's one fund, there's nothing coming into it,
Nothing coming in.
besides the revenues from these properties.
Besides the revenue, okay.
Is there other revenue going into it besides these properties? I don't think so.
I think it's just revenue. I'm sorry, it's just rent.
Do we know what the total revenue coming in on all these properties is? There a list?
Yes.
318,500.
Yeah, the total so far in 2025, like Mr. Biller said, $318,518.94. It's on the bottom of that revenue sheet here.
That's what's coming in right now.
Yeah, there's no expenses on that. Expenses are on the previous page, $158,000.
So really, you're only looking at 150,000 roughly of net coming in.
Of what I would call
At the
profit.
300, yeah, profit, yeah. Okay, so basically, 158,000 profit. And this is so supposedly every year, correct?
They're pretty similar numbers.
Similar,
if you're asking.
okay. So, you anticipate then, these are major investments, you know, your boilers, your HVAC systems. Do you, you know, if you project this thing out, and you've got 158,000, say, 100,000 is what you spend, you allocate 100,000 for these projects, another 100,000 for the next, boiler replacement or HVAC system, maybe that's what they're looking at, to see whether or not you're basically have enough income from all these projects to, cover your future expenses, which are, you know, looming out there, you know, if they're 20, 30 years old, they're looming out there.
And we're kind of in a bad spot now. I feel like because we went years without doing anything, we ended up with a lot of 30, 50-year-old boilers and
It
HVAC
wasn't
systems.
done before.
Yeah, there was no, and like I mentioned earlier, there were years where we went without any of this financial data. We just had no idea what we were even collecting in revenue and anytime there was any kind of expense, it was a budget amendment. And I think there was one year, we were responsible for like 15 budget amendments. And that was kind of embarrassing, just because we just didn't have a budget. And that wasn't a thing that we did. So we were trying to get ahead of it this year, and get caught up with some of these very old things that are gonna cost us quite a bit of money.
I guess now that I am on the finance committee, you know, maybe one way to get ahead of it is to say, okay, which ones for 2026, which ones for 2027, which ones for 2028, and so on. As Ziesler said, you know, is there any of these projects that, barring
Catastrophe.
catastrophe, you know, could be done in 2027? You know, even if you just split them, you know, what was it, 120,000 total, was it, Ashley?
For all the projects across the board?
What was in the budget that was passed to the finance? Was it 100,000, 120,000? I
For
forget.
the enterprise center, we had 100,000 and we got, did you say 10,000? Or that's 17,000, I can't read my writing.
It's 10 or 15?
I wrote down 15.
Oh, yep, there it is, 15.
I'm pretty sure.
And then at the Fritz Avenue, we had 150,000 and we're at 30,000. And at ADF, we asked for 90,000 and we're at 0.
So 45,000 is what the finance committee approved.
Yeah, if I remember the discussions, again, I wasn't a voting member at the time, just observing it. I think it was some of the costs exceeded the rent for the year. And I think that was one of those items that caused the discussion and ultimately the changes to the budget. So again, if we, you know, can prioritize, you know, is there one that has to be done in 2026?
And you can check on all those heating equipment. If it's a rooftop unit, it's basically your heat tubes. If they leak, that's a major issue. The boilers, you, again, look at the heat exchangers. Those are the only major things that fail. The rest, bearings and things like that, pumps, seals, those are not major. But it's, once your heat exchangers go, those are major, and you can look at them, you know, if you're a good maintenance man, you can open up the cabinet and check them, you know,
And we do.
and you do, there you go. And then you report, okay, we're starting to see some pitting or some rusting, scaling, falling off, or plugging up tubes, whatever, you know. And those are then the ones that you prioritize next year, or this year, or whatever, you know. Make out a 5 or 10 year list, you know. And that's the way I approach it, I don't know.
So the way we're currently looking is we won't have any capital improvement projects this coming year.
Right, not a fun for the finance committee.
I guess I don't think that's sustainable. I think we're gonna end up with significant problems on that.
And I don't wanna speak out of turn, trying to remember back to that meeting, but I think kind of their conclusion too with not budgeting that money was, well, the mining fund's there, it's not going anywhere, if you need it, we'll just move the money. If something, because I did raise a question, well, what are we gonna do on January 1st when that enterprise boiler shuts down and is done? So. That might not be exactly how it went, but that's the best of my knowledge.
That's how I would interpret these numbers too, is that we'd rather just do an amendment later. Yeah, some of these are, like a ventilation system at Fritz, that's obviously causing trouble there, and it's not gonna be occupiable if we don't do something serious there, but we don't have money for it, then we can't.
At Fritz building, do they leave the doors open between the office and the main?
No, it's all sealed off, so you actually can't even go from the offices into the warehouse area, that's,
Is the office space insulated well?
to the best of my knowledge. I haven't opened walls, but where we've been in the ceiling, you can see insulation between the studs.
I've seen insulation. Okay. And the office space, is there ventilation in there, air circulation or not?
Somewhat, there is an forced air unit there, so it's pulling fresh air throughout the day.
Okay, so the forced air unit, where is it getting in air from, outside, or it is? And it's air conditioned? And is the drain on the AC unit flowing to the outside?
Yep.
Okay. And filters are clean, everything is clean? And you're still getting mold? Is the fresh air intake anywhere near to the outside where there's the dust or anything else? No?
No, it is on the street side, but it's,
That's all street side there.
yeah, pretty much.
Street side?
In that area, probably about as fresh air as it can get, so.
Do you have an electrostatic filter in there?
No, I don't believe there's one on that.
Have you ever looked at getting one for them?
Could look into it.
You're not talking a lot of money for an electrostatic filter. Maybe a couple of $1,000 at the most. And that, I know in Chicago, when I was working on there, that was one of the biggest issues was the Chicago air is dirty, even if you're on the street side. And the only way to clean it up was with electrostatic filters. it takes out the particulates, and it's the particulates that cause the mold, just so you know. And you can also put your ultraviolet light in there, which also kills the mold. And those are really cheap, they're like a couple $100. I did that at the Toad House. Yeah. So there's other ways to kill that mold.
Yeah, the main issue is still, we want dehumidifiers running in when it's hot. It's humid in that building.
Within the office space, it's still humid.
Still humid. Yeah, which is, I believe, that cold air button up against that hot.
Well, if it's still, then the AC unit is not sufficient, it's not big enough to handle it. That's the problem. Because if you have a big enough unit and big enough airflow, big enough fan, you shouldn't have any humidity within that space. It would basically dry out that space. And if the unit isn't big enough, then that's what your problem is. Yeah. So that's a different issue, completely different issue. Has anybody looked into it to see how many tons is that?
I think it's a 3-ton unit outside,
3 ton for 1,000 square feet?
which might be too big. So
3 ton?
you can put too big a unit in a house to where it doesn't circulate enough and it won't dry the air properly.
If you have too big and your coils are not sized properly inside the unit, the evaporator coils, then you have problems, yes, but not if it's sized, everything is correctly sized.
We're not here to discuss the details.
I know, those are
Air
details.
conditioner unit, but, I think what we're getting at here is, I guess, Mr. Ewer, we need a little more, of a plan for the finance committee if we're gonna, you know, keep these buildings habitable, I guess.
Okay. Do you want a breakdown for those 3 buildings?
I guess in general, I'd say, we'll need some kind of list of,
Priority.
yeah, of all the buildings, I would say. These were some that we had identified, you know, we've had issues with these, and so that's kind of what we had in the notes from the last year, so those are what we had for priorities, but, I think if the finance committee wants a long-term plan, then you got to go through all the buildings. I think a list of priorities there, and then we'll go from there. Okay, anything else about maintenance? Okay, moving on. Last month, we talked a little bit about the leases at quite a few of the properties, and I can't remember exactly, we were talking about an action on one of them, but we didn't have an action set for them. There was some vacancies coming up. There was one at Gates Avenue, and I don't know if Mr. Christensen, Administrator Christensen, not Mr. Christensen, he offered the space Mr. West was vacating we took action to allow him to offer the space to Bi-Origin. I was already renting in that building at their current rate, and I don't know if they've taken that space or not. So we were hoping to go through, there was a different property last month that we were talking about, and we hadn't set lease rates on it for a while, so I wanted to take a minute and go through and review these lease rates, so when they come due or come vacant, we can fill them as quickly as possible at the pre-approved rate. We're going through the top of the list, Ms. Heath made this list for us here. ADF that's a long-term lease there, and I don't see any movement from them out of that. I didn't ask for this, but do you know off the top of your head when some of these leases expire?
Not off the top of my head, but I can find it for you.
I know theirs is pretty long, I think, so. But they're at $279 a square foot. A few years ago, we set a target rate of, several years ago, we set a target rate of $3 a square foot for most spaces. And you'll see here, most of these were hitting that, a few were a little bit above it. But most of our vacancies recently have been at the Enterprise Center, and so that's where you see some of the highest lease price per square foot, you'd say, so. Just going down the list, Barefoot Painter in their spaces are at $404, $410, $4, and $4. That's all industrial property. Yes, $4, that's all. We haven't heard anything from them about moving out, and I think some of their leases are fairly new. But if there's a vacancy there, do we want to, or a lease term expires, do we want to make any changes to the current lease rate?
Why are they higher than all the other ones, which are around $3 a square foot?
Cause they are the newest ones, so some of these are several years old. $3 was our target we set several years ago.
I see.
And when the largest vacant area, that Barefoot Painters occupied, when that area became vacant, we solicited proposals, and it was a pick your price kind of situation, and that was their offer, was $4 a square foot. So that's what we went with for all of their property there. Some of them have weird numbers, you'll see like the 404, some of them have utility percentages built into them. Some of them are utilities based on a percentage of square foot, some are percentage of usage. One problem we have at many properties is multiple tenants and only one electric meter or gas meter or water meter, and so we just take percentages. So that's why some of those are a little strange. Okay, so any action on Barefoot Painters rates? Here, now I'll move on to Marshfield Clinic. They're at $3, that's storage space. Yes.
And if I may, so there, remember, I don't know if you'll recall, so between the city and the county, we were trying to get everybody on annual leases, cause they were all over the board. Marshfield is one of the remaining ones that was not, touched before that time, that expires on March 31st. So,
Oh, 2026?
yeah, it goes from like April 1st to the following March 31st, and then it has like an auto renew clause unless either party, would like to amend.
So I think we would like to offer them a 9-month lease then when this one expires. So they get on the same December schedule as everybody else, is that correct?
Yeah, that would be great for like our administrative end if everyone is on the fiscal year. Mhm.
Okay, any thoughts about the $3 per square foot they're paying there? What do they store there? Is that what I heard?
If it's the area I know of, there is two, I'm gonna forget what they're called now, that they put a premature into the chamber. NICU, thank you. Two NICU, very old NICU units, that's all that's in that area right now.
It's a pretty big area for 1,300 square feet.
13. That might not be the full area, then that's the only one I'm aware of that they're in there, cause that's,
I thought they did have an area with records, so.
I believe, I'm trying to think of what area of the building that would even be in. Because I haven't gone in there.
Yeah, I was in there one time.
Cause the one is on
From
the
the back.
north side. Yep, through the double doors.
And it should have been on, would have been the east side. Just went in those back doors, if I remember right.
So what I'm getting at there is I think there's not a whole lot of usage in that space, so I feel like $3 is pretty fair there. Unless anybody would like to offer a change, but I think, when that lease is due, we can take action to issue a 9-month lease instead of a year. If you bring that up again in February or so, that'd be great. Maybe even January. Okay, there's a couple transit bus areas. They have both office storage and, oh, I guess they're both there. I thought there was 3 areas there, but they're paying $12 a square foot for the office area, $4 a square foot for, it's essentially the bus garage there. Any changes to those rates there? Best Enterprises is paying $12.70 a square foot for their office space. Liberty Roofing is $4 a square foot for storage space. Okay, then there's some notes on here. To qualify for a grant funding, our CTC has, their lease says a higher amount than they actually pay, so we give them a in-kind donation, so they qualify for the grant funding to pay the rest. So those are those notes there. It's essentially the rate that we're charging them is $3.73, I think, and we're giving them a discount to the what they're paying is $3.73, but what we're charging them is the $4 on the line above. I don't know if the office is actually included in that.
Well, when you add them both up, 9,000 square feet and 1,000,
Well, I guess it is on the full thing.
square footage.
So my understanding was their mechanics garage is the in-kind section where they don't pay rent.
11,000 square feet out there?
Big area on the forestry
Yeah,
building.
on the forestry building.
I know I read through that in that lease, but it was part of their requirement to get some grant funding, so that they had to pay more to get the funding.
And you give them a credit.
Yeah, so they're credited back,
41,000.
that's what it looks like. Alright, going back to the Forest Industrial Park, that's all leased to Indec now. That was previously 501 Dowdy and 1402 Jazz Road. Now, with those two connected, it's one building, we just call it the Forest Industrial Park. Their rate is, this is a brand new lease. Their rate is quite a bit lower than everybody else's. But we thought about it pretty hard, and they are a major wood using factory, I guess, and we thought that was better for the economy as a whole in the local area. They're also a major employer here.
Do they pay for the
They
utilities?
pay everything there, and they even have insurance on the property, so that's one more expense that does not have to be paid on our end. And that's a lot of square feet, so it still comes to 81,000 a year.
Yeah, and I would just say that the space type probably should be storage.
It's mostly warehouse there, right?
Yeah, it's warehouse storage. There's no industrial operations going on there. It's just storage.
So that was a long-term lease, and we just approved that a few months ago. So we can't make any changes to that, even if we wanted to. Continuing down to Fritz Avenue, Dahlstrom, we talked about them, they're the ones with the ventilation issues. They're at $405 a square foot is their total. They have, it's mostly, like you said, it's just the small office space, and we call it industrial area, it's a lot of truck maintenance, I would say, there, I guess that's what it is, maintenance in there. Rockwell space there is all warehouse. I think it's all full, but I don't know if I ever see anybody actually there. There's a forklift that drives across the lot.
Yeah, very rarely is anyone there.
And these rates all include, utilities, so these rates I think are based on the square footage. Your percentage of the square feet pays for that percentage of the utilities there. And we've talked about separating those utilities quite a few times because places like Rockwell use almost nothing, and then Dahlstrom, doing quite a bit of work in there, uses significantly more utilities even though they have much less area. So we kind of considered that when we looked at Dahlstrom's lease recently. Hooper has a small office there. I feel like it's smaller than 3,000 square feet, but that could be, I guess. Mr. Reynolds rents 4,000 square feet, and he rents it to Marshfield Clinic. That's their
Alcohol, drug, and
DOD,
drug
yeah.
rehabilitation center. I can get that out.
I don't know what there was some agreement, he made some significant improvements to that building. It was warehouse space essentially, and now it's fully functional office space in that chunk of the building, so. His rate was reduced at that time, so that's why he's listed here as storage, probably because it was storage space when he started there, but, the reason it's much nicer than that now is the investment he made there. Mr. O'Keefe has 3,000 square feet there, and I think Mr. Christensen told me he's been on a month-to-month lease for quite a while, and he's going to stay there for several more months, it sounds like. And he stores bear bait there. It says office space there, but I think that's all warehouse. That's one area I feel like might be a little low on the scale there. Any thoughts on that? His lease has expired, it continues on a month-to-month basis. So any changes we made would be effective a month from his last rent payment, I guess. A month from when we made the change. Is everybody okay with that 250 a square foot there? Would anybody like to make a change?
Otherwise you'll run them out of business. The other guys are all dropping bear meat. You know, the guy up there on County J, he's no longer doing bear meat.
He sold his business to Mr. O'Keefe.
Yeah, because he couldn't make it. Okay. Keep it the way it is.
Okay, the next line here is some utility charges that I was trying to remember. Ms. Heath, can you remind me how those utilities work out there? We're charging them 92 cents per square foot for utilities on those two leases.
Yeah, I think that was something that the former finance director had pulled actuals and came up with that rate.
Wait, that's something we're charging them, or is that what?
Yeah, that's part of their, so Reynolds is 250 plus 92
Okay,
is the full rate.
okay, so those are plus.
Mhm. Yep.
So we're pretty close on target rates with those.
Those are separately metered?
No,
No, I don't think so. I think they were based on like actuals broken down by square footage.
So that would bring both of them to 340 or so, so that's a healthy amount of rent, I feel like. Okay, moving on to gates, this is one we did a few months ago. We set a flat rate there to charge everybody there at $3 a square feet, $3 a square foot. Mr. West was at the end of his lease, so we let that one go, but the next one would be $3 a square foot there. Any changes to those rates there?
How many square feet is left in gates that's empty?
There's about 20,000 square feet the sheriff's department is using. That'd be if you were looking for a cost of the sheriff's department to be there, it's about 60,000 a year.
And have you, tried to, move the sheriff out of there into some other structures?
You'll have to talk with the county's property committee about that. I think I didn't watch the last meeting, Mr. Biller, I watched one a month or so ago. It wouldn't have been the most recent one, but, I know there was some options discussed, but I don't think any action has been taken yet.
Because there's a number of buildings that are currently,
We have sent them a list of buildings and options.
buildings and list, including the, former, fire station, Lady Smith Fire Station.
No, that was not on the list, but that's currently occupied by the city's snowplow trucks.
No. It's currently occupied by the J.C.'s floats.
No, the floats are in the old community center, the old.
City Hall.
Old City Hall shop. They're in a much smaller part of that building. I know, and that building is in no condition to be occupied by anybody, not even the J.C.'s that are paying nothing for it. It's only there because we can't afford to tear it down. It's,
Oh, the old Gustafson building, is that what you're referring to?
the Gustafson.
Gustafson building.
I don't know.
Yeah, the old Gustafson Creamery from the sixties.
That's GT's, isn't it? What's wrong with GT's?
It's a block building, it's glass block, curved
Yeah,
structure.
curved on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the old public workshop, and that's.
Yeah, that was the Gustafson building.
I'm not that old, sorry. Yeah, no, that wasn't on anything we've something, but as I said, I haven't been in there in years, but the last time I worked for the city, it was decrepit.
Right. What about the old sewing factory in Bruce?
Sewing factory in Bruce.
Yeah, was that presented as an option for the sheriffs?
I don't know, where's the old sewing factory in Bruce?
On the southwest side of the Bruce, south of Highway 8. Way behind, you know, where the housing development is. On the west side. West of the Highway 40, south of Highway 8. It's a 20,000 square foot building, beautiful, insulated, office space, plumbing, everything.
Daycare?
Yeah, I'm thinking of a daycare building there.
Yeah, the daycare is there.
No. You're thinking of a different building. It's
Well-
way on the southwest side. It's 20,000 square feet and it's available, and I think the city would help the sheriff relocate it.
I don't think, we don't have any real authority over that here besides,
I
you know,
know,
wanting to collect rent there. If you have specific properties, Mr. Biller could probably take those to the property committee.
well, that's the one you should take to the property committee.
You're on it too.
I know, you're the chairman. You're the chair, man, you're the one who sets the agenda, I don't. I know. It's called a sewing factory. It closed a long time ago, before your time.
Okay, anything else about the lease rates there? We're still on item number 7. Anything we need to discuss on any of those properties? Any tenant concerns or anything? Nothing. Okay, moving on to number 8. This Mr. Christensen was going to give he promised would be a short history of this committee, but obviously he's not here and I don't have much history of it, so, I was hoping that would be helpful, as we look at the joint management agreement. Just in my short history here, I think, we had quite a few years, as I said earlier, we operated by emergency. When there was a serious problem somewhere, we would have a meeting, and that's all of it there. There wasn't regular meetings, and there was literally zero financial analysis. We had no idea where we were collecting rent, or where we were spending maintenance money, or anything. The last several years have been much better. Actually having profit and loss statements where we know what maintenance is costing us. So I guess I don't have any real history of the committee. Andy Alvarado was kind of he wasn't the chairman or anything, he was the organizer, I guess. He was the contact point for any of the tenants there, tenant issues or anything. So he was really the manager of the properties, I would say. And more recently, we've kind of taken a committee approach to that. Actually looking at leases at meetings and searching out tenants rather than leaving that all to Andy at the time. Anybody else have any history of joint management they want to go over? Okay, well, moving on to the joint management agreement. Well, in the packet, I'll go over this as part of the joint management agreement. We sent a letter regarding legal requirements for minutes. As we talked about, the county clerk felt.
I gotta go, John.
Okay. Yeah, we are getting pretty late here. We sent a letter to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities about the requirement to take minutes here. The county clerk had cited state law 59.23. The response we got had 2 main points to it. The first is that state statute doesn't apply to a joint committee. The second thing he also said in there was that I can't, or any individual can't specifically assign any person to do the minutes. It's not a county committee, it also says in there, so the county statutes on county committees doesn't apply. And what he really got at, and Administrator Christensen actually talked with the guy a couple of times going over this, and what he really recommended was that the committee has to decide these things in some kind of written form. And so all those things are addressed in this joint management agreement that we've talked about several times. All the way at the back of your packet. So I know I emailed Mr. Ziesler to make sure he had read this, because the rest of us had talked about it several times. I think I have made all of the corrections that we've gone over. The date on the top, I put the date of the next city council meeting. On the agenda for that meeting is approval of this agreement, that this is a statement of how we will operate and how we will how we conduct business with these properties. Are there any questions about this agreement?
I guess I have some comments. Was there an actual appraisal done in 2024 of all properties?
I don't think all properties were done, but most of them were. And these are the actual numbers off of those appraisals. They might be in my giant folder here full of things. Cause I know I got those numbers from those. Actually, I think they're in my email. I think Mr. Christensen emailed those out. I can forward those to you if you're interested in them.
I might have them,
I think he emailed them, I think is where I have them.
Yeah, I guess, you know, maybe what would be helpful is to reference those documents if their appraised value is based on those documents.
I think I wrote in there appraised, the 2024 appraisal value. So we could,
Yeah, I mean, I see it's appraised value, you know, on all the properties, but if there's an actual appraisal, that appraisal would be referenced, that, you know, these appraised values are taken from.
do you just
that
wanna say
document.
appraised by, and then we put, it wasn't.
Not
Jim.
by each of the properties, but just to say that, you know, the property, you know, even if it's just a footnote somewhere, that they're based on, you know, an appraisal report dated such and such from such and such. You know, having not, I don't recall seeing it, so.
Let's see. I put that at the end of the industrial properties overview. Appraisals based off of appraisals received by, I forget the name of the firm.
It was Gargoyle.
And if there's a property that's not part of that report, then it would have to just say estimated value.
Yeah, we could, I don't think I like the idea of us estimating the value of a property.
Were there any that were not part of that appraisal?
Now that I look at it, I don't think so, actually. See, going down the list, Doty Road. Index Building, Enterprise Center, Gates Avenue, Fritz Avenue. We don't have anything on the industrial park vacant land.
Yeah, I did notice that there was no value attached to that.
Yeah, I can definitely add that line in there, that's just saying it's based off of the appraisals we received from, we'll double check, make sure it's Gargolek and, the date we got those.
Yeah, I just didn't think an agreement should have an appraised value unless it was appraised by someone, you know. They were just estimated, you know.
No, I didn't make up any numbers, we didn't make up any numbers here, these are professional appraisals.
I also noticed on, it says Indec also leases a jointly owned property at 1950 Meadowbrook Road across from their manufacturing facility. I know it's just a vacant piece of property.
And it's not vacant, it's used for storage.
Yeah, they use it for storage, yeah, but how come that's not listed in any of these leases or rentals?
I think it's included in their new lease there, right? we have a separate lease on that?
It's the Forest Two.
Old Forest too, is that what it is?
Yeah, it says 1402 Jez, but it's not.
So 501 Downey Road and 1402 Jez Road are now one building.
No, so that's not what this is referring to. This is 1950 Meadowbrook Road.
Right, but the lease for those properties, I think, includes that lot, doesn't it?
It's a separate lease and it's accounted for within the Forest Two, budget. I don't know why that decision was made years and years and years ago, but that's where it's accounted for in Forest Two. So if you look at your like expenditures and,
Forest Two.
revenues, it's under Forest Two.
So it's all the same tenant, so I don't think it makes a difference for accounting, where if we had a separate line, because we don't budget anything for that property, there's no maintenance there or anything. I don't even think the county maintains insurance on it. Indic is responsible for their own insurance there, so.
Well, I know why they call it Jez, because there is a Jez Road that butts up to that one, the northern portion of the building. And then the southern portion of the building is Forest One, that's the one, Dowdy Road. But this statement here says 1950 Meadowbrook Road.
Yes, there's another lot separate from these buildings that's across from, so the manufacturing facility, maybe I should clean up that language. Their manufacturing facility is on Meadowbrook Road.
Yes.
Separate from these buildings, 501 Downey, 1402 Jazz, and we're calling it the infill building. Cause that's all one building now.
But 1950 Meadowbrook Road is different than those two buildings.
Correct.
So why isn't that then listed in terms of lease?
Cause it's included on, it's the same tenant there, are you saying it should be a separate bullet point here?
Well, if it's a separate piece of property, then it should have an assessed evaluation for it, and you just can't lump it into something else. It doesn't say anything how it's lumped into anything else. It just says, Indic also leases a jointly owned property at 1950 Meadowbrook Road.
So this whole section is about Indic.
I know it's all about Indic. Where does it show, because all the other properties, 501, I know where that is, that's in Dalton.
Yeah.
I know where 1402 Jess Road is, I know where that is. Where is this 1950 Meadowbrook Road that you should list it as a separate entity?
You want it listed as a separate entity?
Well, yes, because it has a value, it's another piece of property, it's way at the other end of what you're thinking of. Those two buildings are way on the west end. This building is on Meadowbrook Road. Not building, but the space that they're referring to. Or am I getting it all wrong? I'm gonna have to drive out there.
They are in physically different locations, yes, but I feel like they're all have the same use by the same tenant, I don't know.
Well, then why do you have it listed as separately in terms of the financing and appraised value?
Cause they were two buildings, and now it's one building.
1950 Meadowbrook Road is not those buildings that you're referring to.
Correct.
I think it's for, future accounting, that it's all going to be lumped into one.
Yeah, it's all one lease. I don't think we could lease that lot separately from the others. Unless something serious happened to Indic, I'm saying. I don't understand the concern, I guess. Why would you?
Because first you show Indic 501. You show 1402 Jez Road. And then it down way at the bottom, it talks about property listed at 1950 Meadowbrook Road, across from their manufacturing facility. Those other two buildings that are joint are nowhere near across from their manufacturing building. So here's another piece of property. Do I need to draw it for you?
So do you want me to say instead of across from their manufacturing facility, just delete that line?
No, listed as a separate entity. That's another piece of property.
But it's not, it's included with these others.
Nowhere does it say it's included in those others. No, you've got a separate address.
Okay, these other ones have separate addresses, and it's one building.
But you also show it as what its appraised value. Nowhere in here does it show this piece of property. Do you follow now?
Correct.
You're leaving that out, is what I'm saying.
What am I leaving out?
The value of that property.
Okay, we don't have a value of that property though. Should I write that in there, that this property has not been appraised?
Fine. This is Mr. Your question with, you know, things need to be appraised, right?
I just was, my concern was that the appraised value, that it has something tied to it, an appraisal report.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're using that space. I know where that space is. Because they use it for outdoor storage of their packaged units. And the trucks come in and haul it away. So there's a piece of property that they're utilizing, but nowhere do you show it in any of this documentation that we're charging them a lease for it.
Well, it says Indec also leases.
Yes, and where does it show the amount for the lease?
None of these show an amount for a lease.
But at least you show an appraised value.
So you wanted to say this property has not been appraised.
I think that's all it's gonna take, is just to put the line into the property has not been appraised yet. I don't know why we're getting so far off in the weeds on this.
I can put that in there, that's not a problem. I'm not sure I understand the,
If he puts that line in there, would you be satisfied with that, Mr. Ziesler?
Fine, I'm just saying, you know, you've got such detail in all the other properties, how much the leases are, et cetera, and here we have, Indec leasing this vacant land, and no dollar associated with it, or anywhere else, other than this one
It
sentence.
hasn't been appraised.
Right.
so, okay, I'll
And
add,
you have,
It was.
you haven't appraised-
It's appraised.
you haven't appraised it, and you haven't, leased it. They're not paying any lease on that,
okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Indec is paying lease.
They are paying a lease on that.
Where does it show that?
none of these show lease rates.
On this report, this,
No, but in the expense report. Where's that in there?
plus a month.
Forest two.
is-
That's what I was getting at.
That's the
So it is accounted for.
forest,
No, this is the 1950.
you sure? Why doesn't list it as such?
I'm 100% positive.
You're 100% positive, okay, then I'll agree with you.
The one,
Because up until August 15th, I was the plant controller at Indec.
Okay,
And that went out every month,
so 1950,
1950.
okay. But obviously, it was not shown as such on
Correct.
this report.
Yeah,
So just clear up the report, so
Okay,
a
so-
novice like me
okay.
don't get confused.
I'll add the line that says this property has not been appraised. I'll also put that in the industrial park vacant land.
Look at here, he wrote.
Okay, we're not talking about the revenue statement though, we're talking about this agreement to operate the
I
property.
know, but I'm saying, you know, keep it all so that a novice like me and understand it, and not question it. Clarity is the essence, right?
Okay, so I've got three changes. The first is in, under C, big C, little b, adding the line, under Indec also leases jointly owned property at 1950 Meadowbrook Road across from their manufacturing facility. This property has not been appraised, will be the add there. Still under that same main heading, little f, industrial park vacant land, adding a sentence at the end that says these properties have not been appraised. And then after that paragraph, adding a line that says these appraised values came from, we'll double check the name on that and the date that those appraisals were received. Okay, any other changes? Any other questions?
Yeah, under the membership and operations of the committee, you have 2 appointed by City of Ladysmith, 3 appointed by the county, 1 must reside in the City of Ladysmith.
And that's actually a slight change. I specifically worded it like that. The way it's written now is 1 must include a, I can't remember exactly how it's worded. The district only has to include part of the city. A supervisory district which is located within the city limits. So I felt like that was kind of vague. Does part of the district have to be in the city limits, or all of the district, or?
Well, for the Committee on Committees, the way that it draws up representation there, as well as on the Highway Committee, it's the 4 supervisory districts, 19, 18, 17, and 16, are considered the city district. So one of the 4 supervisors from those 4 districts would be considered the city representative.
But part of that district, is all of that district in the city of Ladysmith?
Each of those 4?
Yes.
I'd have to look at the map if some of it is located slightly outside.
I think all of them have some chunk outside of the city. So the reason I put that in there was that the 3rd person appointed by the county, also represents the city, but it's very possible that they have no connection to the city at all, besides some small chunk of their constituency.
I would say the vast majority of each of those are within the city limits. Again, without looking at the map, I know that the map is on the county website. And certainly the city would need to know that for election purposes, for supervisor elections. So, I don't know if you have any.
I don't think, I think what John is saying is, there's some of them that are just barely in the city.
I know mine is almost entirely out of the city.
I could go get a map and
If that's convenient for you.
I can go try to find them.
Is that a concern that it says 1 must reside in the city?
No, that was not my concern, actually. I was getting to the one appointed by Industrial Development Corporation. According to the Joint Management Committee ordinance on the Rusk County ordinance, it just says, it doesn't make any reference to the Industrial Development Corporation having a representative.
If you scroll down to one of these resolutions here, one of those does. And this is kind of the problem I'm trying to eliminate, is all of these things. And so then this agreement would delete these 2 things and essentially say the Joint Management Committee will operate based on this agreement. So we'd take quite a few words out of that, and then we'd we would eliminate all of these. So if you scroll down, there's a pretty good list of those resolutions that they.
Yeah, no, I recognize that there are some additional, but my understanding is that that is not a voting member. It doesn't distinguish in what you've written here that there's that position is a voting member.
This is that's small. But I think it's maybe only 19 that kind of is outside of.
Oh, I thought mine went all the way across here. Okay. 16. So yours is the only one that this part is also in the district.
And, District 6, takes in a chunk of the city.
Yes, maybe a small chunk out by McDonald's, yes, there is.
McDonald's and also where Russ Thompson is in that area. And same with, what is it, 19 that, Willingham is on?
17.
Willingham,
17.
17.
Okay, 17 also is a part of, Town of Grant, because,
Yeah, there is some in the town of Grant there. I thought I was more in the other direction there.
so you got 2 districts that are,
Yeah, 18 is only in the city, it looks like.
Yep.
16 would have some outs. No, this is all in, 16 would be entirely in the city. Yes, like you said, 6 has a portion in the city,
14, 17.
17. 9.
Yeah, again, for purposes of the Committee on Committees and the Highway Committee, 17, 18, or 16, 17, 18, and 19 are considered the 4 districts. The city districts. Those 2 committees.
Yeah, I like how it says, you know, it's always been somebody that, before you, Dan Goodis, lived in the city, it's always been somebody, but I guess you know, my concern as a resident of the city is that there wouldn't be, you know, it'd be an uneven representation here, because you could easily have somebody outside of the city that didn't, but.
Right, and, you know, the idea is to have someone who lives in the city who's the county supervisor. You know where I live in the city, so.
Right.
But
So you're talking about the Industrial Development Corporation appointed member?
correct, that would be my concern, because again, the county ordinance has for joint management committee that just the 3 selected from the Board of Supervisors and then 2 from appointed by the city.
Yeah.
And the industrial development, I understand, has representation here, but not a voting.
Mhm.
So if you wanted to just say that, you know, 1 appointed, but not a voting member or something to that effect, that would clarify that.
I don't actually have a copy of, so that resolution that added them to the committee, I don't think actually says that. And so we've talked about that a few times. And it's worded really vaguely in that resolution. I wanna say just use the word representative. Okay, so now we're down to 4 changes here. One about 1950. One that says these properties have not been appraised for the vacant land. One that says the appraisals. Write that down real quick. Go back. What's the date on this? These are all 2023 actually, so I'll change that date in all of them. I thought it was 2024. So 2023. April through October of 2023. Okay, so changing the date from 2024 to 2023.
Sorry.
No, we're gonna put the date in there anyway, so, 3, 4, okay. So, that'd be 5 changes, including listing the Industrial Development Corporation's non-voting member.
Just a question, it keeps being brought up, I believe one of the buildings has debt on them.
Yeah, so, I don't know, and we don't have the loan paperwork, and I was looking for it, and I don't know if it actually, here's the city's resolution. In 2008, the county borrowed $3 million for these 4 projects. And the city wanted to help with that, so we agreed to allocate all of the revenue from those properties to the county.
So has most of it been paid back already?
We have no idea.
Could I see that?
As I said, in theory, the way I understood it, the loan should be paid off in 2028. At the rate it was being paid, but we don't know. There was a long time period, as I mentioned, when we had absolutely no financial data. We didn't know what we collected for revenue, what we had in expenses, and it was just, the mining fund was just kind of like a sock drawer full of cash, I guess, and money went in and money came out and nobody really tracked it. So now that we know, we don't know, the payments have been made as the loan term says they should be. I'm fairly confident, but we don't know how much revenue was actually generated by the properties. As we can see, this year we're at like $150,000 worth of revenue, so, and I don't know what the terms of that loan were, so we don't know how much interest there might be on it. I suspect it's 0, but I don't know that for sure.
This one here, talks about, the 3 million, some of it was spent on making this transshipment facility, but we have no idea how much revenue that they're getting. The county is getting from, what is it, Excel Energy?
Yep.
Storing their pallets.
Correct.
It's about 45,000 a year.
It's 25,000 a year?
45?
45,000 per year. 2008. That's a long time ago.
That's almost 20 years ago. In 3 years, it'll be 20 years ago.
So $1 million should have been paid back just from that. 1.3 million.
I don't know what the lease has always been there.
I know, it's a fairly recent lease, I think.
Yeah, it was when the timber was there, I think it was more.
So is that part of the debt service?
So 3 buildings have debt service on them, and then every building but 1, I believe, has operating debt. So I think only 1 building is truly in the black. Those are numbers I can get from finance, so, and I already told Fisher that we would work on that for our next meeting.
Yeah, like I said, we went a long time without any actual financial data. So
But what she's saying is that all the buildings are still with debt after 20 years?
yeah, and that's kind of the problem we ran into because most of these were, the county acquired on tax deed, and then quite a few of them, you know, this borrowing did several of the buildings. The city borrowed money for quite a few of those, in the history section of this agreement, you can see where the city borrowed money to make the property usable or clean up whatever was left there, and that's how the county granted the city 50% ownership. So, and this is me, I kind of struggle with the fact that we have debt on these properties or they operate in the red when the property was free and the city, who's not counting debt on here, is the one that borrowed money to pay to make them usable.
Something doesn't jive.
Yeah,
Which I'm gonna bring up, something that is not germane to this, but something that maybe you ought to consider. This joint management doesn't seem to be working. How about if you turn over all of these joint projects to the IDC? Let them run it, control the money, do all the financing, the city and the counties. Give it away to them. If they ever sell any properties, they can reimburse the county and the city. But basically, let them run the show, because I think in the past, they've done a better job than either the county or the city. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Are you saying private enterprise operates more efficiently than the government? I think that's what I heard.
What? Are you a businessman? I think you are. Yes.
So that's, that
I mean,
idea,
just throwing that out.
that idea has not been discussed before. We have on occasion discussed the idea of swapping properties to eliminate the 50-50 ownership. And a few years ago, we started on this. And then there were some pretty serious discussions about swapping properties, and we kind of threw this away, thinking that would happen, but it hasn't, and we need to.
Well, that would be another option.
And, right, and that may or may not happen, and there hasn't been any talk about it recently, but we need to find a way to continue operating, otherwise these buildings are gonna disintegrate and these tenants will move away and then end up with nothing. And so that's why we went to work on this agreement, was so that we could continue operating. Until something significant happens, and we could look at those, options.
Well, this agreement.
Regardless of this?
Yeah, I like the agreement, okay? But look down the road, okay? And start thinking in terms of swapping properties or handing it over to an IDC program or somebody to run this thing correctly, like a business.
I am absolutely not opposed to that. I won't speak for the whole city, but we are definitely open. I am definitely open to those conversations.
I think you gotta consider all options.
I think there's quite a few options there, but the goal I have is to get an operating agreement so we can continue operating these, before we get into serious trouble with them.
Okay, I make a motion to accept.
Okay, we have 5 changes. Did anybody, I'll second that motion if we want to continue discussion.
I would like to continue discussion.
Okay.
On the Russ County Visitor Center, that again does not line up with county ordinance. Because under the Joint Tourism Committee, all they're tasked with is to be responsible for the oversight of the Visitors Center's operation, including preparation of the annual budget. And this committee is tasked with, shall oversee maintenance of the library, animal shelter, and visitor center buildings. So,
But I don't think we want to be. I think we've discussed that quite a few times, and we removed ourselves from those, properties several years ago because it is a mess of trying to get the library board to approve
They all
something.
have their own boards.
And then to get us to approve it, and it's just a mess, and our focus should be on industrial properties, and that's, so we have already removed ourselves from those. You know, we've taken action to do that, to say we won't have any impact on how the tourism committee operates their building.
right, and, you know, at the end of the agreement on page 7, we talk about acceptance of this agreement will change both city code of ordinance as well as the Russ County code of ordinances. That, you know, if that's what we wanna do with this agreement, is to get out of, you know, the library maintenance as well as the joint tourism, and hand it over to them as far as the maintenance of that visitor center building, then we probably should have in the agreement that this also means that these ordinances would be amended as a result.
Do you have those ordinances?
That was already done.
Yeah,
Are our ordinances outdated?
Yeah, there's
This
all the
is-
notes at the bottom, it's
Oh.
gotta be one of those, there's 40 more resolutions under the ordinance, and so
Okay.
the ordinance doesn't change, it's just all the resolutions under it, so.
Right, but,
The text there might say that, but one of those things
well,
under it says it's
again,
not.
this is off of the website, you know, that those code of ordinances have not changed, if that's the case.
Yeah, that's
that's-
incorrect. I can send a note to Connie and just double check that she got this resolution to the people who run the ordinance thing for us. It's resolution 5424, if you wanna look at the,
I don't have the Wi-Fi in here.
oh,
We should have a guest internet.
Yeah, either way, that's already been addressed through the county's ordinance, and I don't know, we could look at the city ordinance and see if we have to make a change on that. I didn't even look for that, cause I know we agreed. What we've discussed before is that we don't wanna be
I
involved.
think it had to be done at both places.
Yeah, I don't know, did the council take action on that?
it says the following ordinance changes are adopted contingent upon the Ladysmith City Council adopting a resolution in similar form. So I'm sure you did.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the date of that?
October 22nd of 24.
Okay.
So I think those are taken care of, those other buildings, cause like I said, it was just a mess of trying to go through the library board and the property committee and this committee, and the library board has their own budget, they can spend it how they want to, and we didn't have a budget to spend there, so why did they need to come talk to us about needing a new furnace there? It was pretty redundant and kind of if we're being honest, a waste of our time. There was just too much oversight is not necessarily a good thing. We have already removed ourselves from those agencies.
Including the animal shelter,
Correct.
yes, visitor center,
Animal shelter,
library and visitor center.
yes.
And those were all taken care of by that resolution?
Yes.
Okay, it just hasn't been updated in the code then?
Yeah, so the code is still incorrect on the website?
I took it directly off of that. If that happened last October,
Yeah, it's been a year.
you know, I downloaded that from before last meeting.
Yeah, the county's ordinances, they haven't, what's shown on there in the text hasn't changed in decades. There's all those resolutions at the bottom that never update in the text. So there's quite a bit in there, and I don't know if that's intentional or the way it's supposed to be. So this was the original ordinance and this is what changed it, so.
My understanding is it should be updated at least yearly. And if so, it should have been updated by now.
Yeah, that runs through the clerk's office, so I can email to double check on that if you'd like.
Okay, so either way, that's already been approved by the county, and we can double check and make sure that's gone through the city too if we need them. I don't remember that, but, we can double check on that.
Mark. I'll look. I have the date, so I can look it up.
Okay, so I've got 5 changes here. Addressing appraisals, the voting member, most of those address the appraisals. Yeah, 4 of them address appraisals and 1 addresses the voting membership. Any other discussion on this agreement?
And again, I will object to the way that the wording is about the minutes and agendas.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the,
Roll call, please.
okay. The motion is to approve the joint management agreement, with the 5 corrections to send to the county board and city council for agreement. Mr. Freeman has asked for a roll call.
Okay, Mayor Grotzinger,
Yes.
Ron Freeman,
No?
John Kenyon,
Yes.
Anton Ziesler.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ms. Heath, you got a county board meeting on Tuesday? Is it too late to put this on that agenda?
I think the clerk posted the agenda today, but I can email the chair and see if he'd be willing to put it on.
Okay, I can talk to him. I know he's gone this week. If he's not, so the date on the agreement is 27 October, which is next, that's the first time it would be approved, so it would still, the date on it wouldn't change, the date the county board would sign it would change, but I don't think any of that's relevant here. The agreement is to operate according to this agreement, with this date on it, so. Any other discussion about that? Okay, date and time for next meeting. Does anybody want to meet on Thanksgiving? Any other suggestions? The 4th Thursday of the month is our normal meeting, but that is Thanksgiving in November. Should we move it up 1 week?
That would be a conflict with the finance committee
Should we move it
of the county.
back 1 week to, that'd be December 4th.
Yes, I have no objections.
There's nothing on the city calendar going out that far, so.
So you, in that case, it'd be just one meeting for November, December on that date? Would that-
Yeah, cause it's,
Yeah, it'd be Christmas again for the next one, so.
I guess that would work for me.
Okay, the next meeting will be Thursday, November 20th at 3 p.m.
Again,
That's
3 p.m. Does that still work
yeah,
for?
again, that's the finance committee,
Oh, on the,
correct?
every Thursday?
The third
the
Thursday.
third Thursday is fine.
Oh, no, oh, sorry, we said December 4th, didn't we?
yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering about that.
Somebody say something. December 4th at 3 p.m. Okay, unless somebody needs to reattack something here, I will seek a motion to adjourn this very long meeting.
So move.
Second.
Motion in several seconds, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.